Your labs aren't lying to you, but they might not be looking in the right place. You sleep 8 hours. You still wake up like you got hit by a bus. Your sleep study comes back normal. But here's what normal doesn't test. As a doctor, here's the exhaustion workup I actually run and the 5 things most panels never ever check. I'm a real doctor, and I see this exact story every single week. And if you want a doctor who actually digs into this terrain with you directly, that's the work we do over at Wellness Plus and in my virtual clinic. And if this is already changing how you think about your own labs, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button below. I put out videos like this every week, walking through the stuff a rushed doctor visit will never cover. Normal labs, and somebody's telling you it's just stress, just anxiety, just aging. There is a common enemy, however. A 12-minute doctor visit is built to rule out the handful of severe common causes fast. It's not built to run a full differential on fatigue for you. Normal on a lab report is a statistic. It's not a verdict on you personally and how you feel. Reference ranges are built from population averages, where most people fall normal within the bell curve. A large Danish study looked at people with borderline thyroid labs and found their symptom scores, fatigue included, didn't track with their actual TSH number at all. The thyroid numbers doctors check first is called TSH, a signal from your brain telling your thyroid how hard to work. Evidence caveat here though, this is one population study. It doesn't mean thyroid function never matters. It means one number is a weak standalone predictor. The same pattern shows up with iron. There was this 2017 meta-analysis pulling over 1,000 patients and found people who were iron deficient, but not technically anemic per se, by hemoglobin, still had measurable fatigue improvement after one treatment. The practical takeaway here is that borderline normal isn't the same as optimal for you guys, and where your number sits inside the range matters. Not just whether it's inside it or in the range, where it is on that range matters. A normal looking result doesn't only apply to blood work, it applies to sleep too, and that one surprised even me. You can sleep 8 hours, hook yourself up to an overnight study, and still walk away with no real answers to why you feel exhausted. A 2006 study comparing chronic fatigue patients to healthy controls found 97% of the fatigue group reported unrefreshing sleep versus 20% of the controls, even though their overnight sleep studies looked almost identical to the healthy groups. You might be thinking, if the sleep study looks normal, doesn't that rule out a sleep problem? A standard sleep study measures apneic events, brainwave stages, oxygen levels. It really doesn't measure whether the sleep you got actually restored you. And this practical takeaway is this worth ruling in or out separately from just sleep more advice. Quantity and restoration are not the same thing. So if labs can look normal and sleep can look normal, where does the answer actually live? That's where it gets interesting, because there are a few symptoms standard workups rarely screen at all. Up first, the exhaustion switch in your brain. That's your HPA axis, the loop between your brain and the adrenal glands. See, your brain senses stress, signals your adrenal glands, and your adrenal glands release a hormone called cortisol on a rhythm, high in the morning and tapering down by night. That rhythm is part of what gives you a normal sense of alertness and energy across the day. A review of the 2013 research found a consistent pattern in chronic fatigue patients: low baseline cortisol, a blunted or missing morning peak, a dulled stress response, and an exaggerated shutdown on testing. This is a review pulled together multiple studies, not just one single definitive test. It's a pattern worth ruling in or out, not just a diagnosis here. So a single cortisol blood draw taken at one random time of the day usually won't catch this. It's a trend. The rhythm is what matters, not one snapshot. But an exhaustion switch upstream in your brain is not the only thing that matters. This next piece happens inside every single cell. Next, let's discuss the energy factories in your cells. Those are your mitochondria, and they're what turn food and oxygen into usable energy for you. Mitochondria are the structures inside your cells that build strength and ATP, the actual energy currency that your body runs on. There was a small 2020 proteomics study comparing chronic fatigue patients to healthy controls, and they found measurable differences in proteins tied to energy production and the electron transport chain, the cell's power generating machinery. Evidence caveat here is that this was a small study, 11 patients versus 9 controls. It's directional, not a large confirmatory trial, worth ruling in or out, but not treating as settled science. So to understand mitochondria, it's like they're the factories or the strength-making cells of the body. So standard blood work doesn't look at cellular energy production at all. It's simply not added in the panel. Energy production is one system standard labs miss. Next, your body's hidden alarm system. Most people know it is histamine overload. Clinically, it's mast cell activation syndrome. And what are your mast cells? These are the cells, our immune cells that release histamine and other chemicals as an alarm signal, usually meant to protect you because they see something foreign that shouldn't be there. A retrospective cohort of 285 people looked at chronic fatigue patients, and just over 4 met criteria clinically relevant for mast cell activation, and physician-diagnosed rates climbed sharply after the fatigue illness started. This is a prevalence and association data. It's a pattern worth screening for, but it's not proof of mast cell activation and that it causes fatigue in every single case for every single person. I do, as a physician, every day in clinic, see patients that are exhausted, wired but tired, and anxious due to histamine overload. So practically, this shows up often alongside fatigue as hives, flushing, reactions to food or heat, and not fatigue in isolation. One more system worth checking, especially if your exhaustion started after you got sick and never fully lifted. Last one here, the infection nobody rechecked. That's Epstein-Barr virus, or EBV, the virus behind mono, that most adults, or like me, carry dormant for our lives. EBV usually goes quiet after the initial infection. For most people, it stays dormant and it never causes another symptom. However, a case control study found that active EBV infection in 12 of 58 chronic fatigue patients versus 1 out of 50 in the healthy controls. This is a statistically significant difference as seen for other common viruses in the same study. Most adults carry latent EBV and it never reactivates. This is about reactivation markers in a very specific group, not everyone that's had EBV. Standard panels don't usually recheck viral reactivation once an initial infection is resolved, so this can sit undetected for years. 5 systems and none of them show up on a basic panel. So here's what I'd actually bring on your next appointment. Not a self-diagnosis, but a list of really well thought out questions. Ask for a full thyroid panel, not just a TSH, and ask where your specific number falls in that range, not just whether it's normal. Ask about ferritin specifically, referencing that fatigue can improve with treatment even without a formal anemia diagnosis. Ask about a cortisol rhythm test morning and evening, rather than one random blood draw. And ask about mast cell and histamine markers, if highs, flushing, food reactions show up alongside your fatigue. And ask about Epstein-Barr reactivation testing if the fatigue started after a viral illness and it never fully resolved. Ask about what your sleep study actually measured, whether normal architecture rules out a restorative problem. Here's also what to avoid. Don't assume normal labs mean nothing is wrong, and don't self-diagnose off a forum thread either. Bring that question to a doctor who will actually run the tests and write them down and listen to you. You don't need permission to ask a doctor to look further. Normal labs are a screen, not a verdict. Walk into the next appointment with specific questions instead of a guess, and let your doctor actually rule out things in or out from there. We're going to keep building on this exact territory, histamine, MCAS, brain fog, right here on this channel. So if any of these 5 systems felt familiar to you, there's more coming. If you found any of this useful, click subscribe like I mentioned earlier. That genuinely helps my channel grow and makes you see videos that you like similar to this.